am Toni, and you are watching Toni TV, the place to be for those of you who are ready to become an ecotarian. Today, we're going to be talking about tip number 10, salt, oil, and sugar. And today, I have the salt expert on the planet. Her name is Selena, the owner of Celtic Sea Salt Company. So in my book called The Ecotarian Diet, that diet has a chapter in it called SOS. Is your body sending you an SOS signal? Which means, are you eating the wrong types of salt, oil, and sugar into your body's internal environment? So I want to welcome Selena today to give us the reason that we want to eat the right type of salt.
This is so exciting, Toni. I'm really excited to be able to share my message with everybody out there.
Yay!
I'm really excited. I think I've come to my time to do that.
Yes.
I've struggled with a lot of insecurities because salt has been, it's been a very sensitive topic out there. Everybody talks about salt and everybody is afraid of it, but they don't really understand what it really is. The medical industry has scared us to death of salt.
Yes.
They've recognized that people are having some conditions and they're saying it's all because of salt.
Like high blood pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Edema, high blood pressure, they just think it's a salt. And it's a very quick fix for people, they think, is to just be on a salt-free diet. But there has been studies shown in the UK that have shown irreversible conditions from being on a salt-free diet. Your body needs salt. It's something that you cannot get enough of in your vegetables. You definitely need to embrace salt, but the right kind of salt. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
Not all salt is the same. One time I didn't even want to call my salt salt because it had such a bad reputation. But we are here to change the reputation of sea salt.
Yay!
And finally, we are bringing the truth and we're bringing some science to it. I have a book in my office. It's about this thick and it's all lab analysis that I send. Every time somebody says, pick up my salt, I said, let me see what the profile of it is. What I'm looking for in a salt is the sodium, the chloride, potassium, calcium, and magnesium levels, and the pH. Once it's past that, then I go visit the salt flats myself to make sure that the conditions are safe and they will never be polluted or anything by different conditions like sewage or whatever it might be, which might happen. Sometimes I have to alter the harvesting methods for the quality. So I've built pole barns, I've changed the raking systems, I brought boots in, just different things like that to make sure the quality is of the standards that I want.
Wow.
And I won't pick up a salt unless I've been there personally myself. So those are the conditions, and that's the promise that I give to everyone when I'm looking for a salt. Not all salts are the same, not even all sea salts are the same because of the conditions around them. So it's really important to be selective in selecting your salts, and also call the manufacturers and say, do you have analysis of your salt? Have you been to this place yourself to see what the conditions are? Is it fair trade? Are they treating the workers properly?
Great idea.
Can it be contaminated? There's a place that I get some salt in one of my sources in Portugal that the sewage infrastructure was not built properly. So every time it rains, it overflows.
Wow.
And there's some salt flats there that is very close. The one that I get it from is not close at all. So those are the little conditions that you really have to be aware of when you're looking for salt.
Something that I was quite taken by was when we were having a discussion about Himalayan salt, because it's the salt that a lot of people, especially the raw food movement people, are using these days. And can you talk a little bit about Himalayan salt and why you chose not to bring it into your brand?
Oh, absolutely. This is a story that I can't wait to tell, actually.
Yay.
In 1996, I read an article in the Prevention magazine talking about this precious pink salt. And I thought, well, I want to see what this salt is. So I found a source from the Himalayas, and I was at a trade show and somebody called and said, you have a package to be picked up and it's $600 for shipping. And I said, I just ordered a sample of this stuff. And when they brought it to my office, it was boxes and boxes of the candles, the lamps. Nobody had ever seen it. This was in 1996, before anybody had ever heard of the pink stuff. and I'm just looking at it going, oh, this is so beautiful. It's beautiful furniture, beautiful this. I'd never thought of putting it in my mouth to eat it. Because it never gave me that energy, that impression.
Right.
This is not for that. But it was beautiful. And the energy of it was really pretty. And so I said, okay, let's send this to the lab analysis. I sent to the lab and it comes back at 99.63% sodium chloride. And I went, well, there's no room for minerals in this. And the pH was 7. So I thought, God, where is this salt? So I kept searching and searching for this Himalayan salt. I have a good friend in Spain that does a lot of salt sourcing for me. And he says, Selena, you got to pick up this beautiful pink salt. Everybody in Europe is all over it. You got to pick it up. It's so great. And I said, I have some here and it's not passing the quality. And I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Send me some of yours. I'll send you some of mine. He sends me some of his. I send it to the lab, same results. You know, I'm going on the YouTube and everybody's saying this Himalayan salt does this and you put it in water and it has more minerals. The water can't make it have more minerals. Duh. So I'm just thinking, why is this getting such movement? And I thought, what's a fad? It'll be nothing.
It's pink.
It's Brad Pitt, I guess, because he had the movie, you know? I don't know what happened. My salespeople come and Selena, this Himalayan salt, you know, 1 out of every 2 customers asking about the Himalayan salt. And I'm thinking, well, just send them the analysis that I have. And that's it. The argument is over. Well, I can only do 1 customer at a time that way. So the YouTube started battling, Celtic is better than Himalayan. And I wasn't the battle. Everybody else was battling for me out there about the difference and what's good or bad. I wanted some of the market share personally. And
Sure.
so I really started to investigate this a little bit more. As I started investigating, I thought, well, wait a minute. Your brand promise is you will never pick up a salt unless you visited the facility. So I started to talk to people about how can I get to Pakistan. Everyone I talked to said, it's been over 7 years before you can go now. It's so unsafe that you won't even go. The man that I found a resource in Germany, I said, will you take me to Pakistan? He says, I used to go there 7 years ago, but they will murder me if I come today.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
that's how much hatred is there in this area. Well, for me, that is a perfect reason for me to not pick up the salt.
Absolutely.
I don't trust it. If somebody's afraid to go for their own life, well, why would I bring a commodity in that people really aren't wanting to make it for our benefit?
Right. But it's called Himalayan.
But it's from Pakistan,
Okay.
so that's it. So if anybody wants to see my lab analysis, I would be more than happy to share all of the lab analysis.
Beautiful.
I'm still searching for that beautiful pink salt that everybody's saying is precious and really good for you. The other thing that we're looking at is, it's really exciting because I was just here the other day with you.
Yes.
And I was talking to Richard Anderson, and he was asking me, he had done some work with Bernard Jensen.
Yes.
And which Bernard Jensen had recommended our salt for years, way back when Jacques was still alive. And he said that one of the things that they're realizing is there's carbon in protein, which is a necessary molecule to be attached to sodium in order to assimilate the sodium properly. So the sodium is not a foreign object in the body that is trying to have the immune system combat and get rid of.
So it's like organic.
Which makes it organic. It
Yes.
transforms it into organic. And if anybody's ever read Biological Transmutation or Continuous Creations, they really tap on the isolation of nutrition and how necessary it is to keep everything in its molecular structure without it being isolated. So something out of the garden is better than putting it in some other process to try and fortify it with nutrients.
Got it.
It's proven. So in all the research we've know is now they say there's only like 0.0005 of protein in there. That's nothing. That's trace. Well, that's the most important part of this,
Right.
is the trace, just like homeopathics. If it's not a trace element, it cannot get through the cell. It can't penetrate the cell. It has to be a trace in order to
That makes
go
sense.
through, like homeopathics. It can't, and a bigger element cannot penetrate. It's too big. It will actually
won't
accumulate.
digest
It
it.
won't, yeah, it
Yeah.
accumulates and it kind of makes it stagnant. So it's important to eat your minerals and more of a homeopathic or a trace element. And with all the salts that we bring in, that's what we look for. We look for the calcium, the magnesium, the potassium, and then we look at the sodium chloride levels and the pH. Now with what Richard is sharing with me, now I'm looking at other elements, which is so interesting because I know if Jacques was still alive today, which was the founder of the company and wrote the book Sea Salt's Hidden Powers, he would be like all over this saying, I know it's
Right.
not just the magnesium, potassium, and the calcium, because our body is made up of all of these cations, and it's cations, and the body, the ocean, and our salt have the same cations, which is, how can you question there's a God?
Absolutely.
It's completely divinely created. It's so exciting. And it's the magnesium, potassium, sodium chloride, and the calcium. That is what our body fluid is made of.
Beautiful.
The earth is 70% water. Our body is 70% water. Duh. I mean, our salt is more moisture than any other salt. Eat the wet salt. We want it to be wet. The secret is in the brine. That brine holds all of these elements. When you start to process it and remove that brine, you're just taking all those precious.
And what does
beautiful
brine
things.
mean?
Brine is the wet, like if you've heard of mother liquor or nagari.
Love it.
Nagari is what you use to make tofu with. And what it is, it's a dropping of the salt. So you take a high mineral salt, and you put it in a cheesecloth and you drip it into water and you pull it back up, and all of that drippings is called nagari. And it's a very thick magnesium, and that's what you make tofu out of. That's the tofu maker. But it is amazing. It's off the charts with magnesium and everything. It's a byproduct that we soak in it at work. We have the brine and we soak in it because it's so high in magnesium.
Can I come over?
Yes. It's pretty amazing. And it's so funny because the title of Jacques' book is called Sea Salt's Hidden Powers. And here, 40 years later, I'm still discovering these hidden powers. And this is so exciting.
Wow. So you were telling me earlier about this most precious salt that you brought in. And again, what is the name? I wish that we had a bottle of it, but we don't to show you, but we will post it. And but this is the Celtic sea salt that we've been talking about that has a lot of the moisture and the brine and the whole thing. So, but what is this most precious salt that you were talking about?
This salt is so precious. The story behind it is so beautiful too that I want to share the story because there's a really dear friend of mine, Jordan Rubin. He's the owner of Garden of Life, Beyond Organics and everything. And we're so close. And he says, Selena, there's this amazing salt that I really want you to bring in. And that's how my friends are. They're not going to bring another salt in. They say, you're the salt lady.
Yes.
You bring it in, Selena, and I'll make sure everybody buys it. So Jordan did that. That's the kind of guy he is. So, but he had a person that worked for him that was supposed to give me the information. And she just kept procrastinating giving information. And I just said, oh, well, whatever. I'm at a trade show at Expo West one year, and this man comes up to me, and he has a little vial about this big of this white salt, which ours is gray. And we said, no white salt, And I'm going, whatever, oh, I'm sure there's no minerals in this and whatever. I'll take it. And he says, no, please test my salt. I think you will love this salt. And he says, it comes from 2,000 feet below the surface of the water. And I'm going, oh, now you got my attention. So we started talking. I sent it to my lab guy. Carl calls me from the lab, ENC Labs, and says, where did you get this stuff? I've never seen anything like it. It's 33% lower in sodium than table salt. It has 2% of your daily amount of calcium you need and 2% of your magnesium you need.
Wow.
The alkalinity is 10.63. Come on. And he says, I said, why don't you run the tests again? Because I'm feeling like something's off. Identical. I could not believe this salt. And it is so pure. There's no solubles in it. I mean, it is so pure because it's not in the outside elements. They have this big pipe that goes 2,000 feet off the Kona Island, 2,000 feet below the surface of the water. They bring the water up into this pharmaceutical, like a salt hut, and they have this fan in there that blows the air out and the crystals form on top, and then they just bring the crystals in and let them drain a little bit. And that nagari, that brine, is being used to make tofu in Japan. People are going crazy over that. So all these people come from Japan and buying the heck out of that brine.
That is exciting.
So when this happened, I fly to Hawaii and I says, I want exclusivity now. Before I do this.
Immediately.
And now. And so I've had exclusivity with this salt since we brought it in. And it's been a little bit challenging for me. We have done such an amazing job telling people the importance of Celtic sea salt and all the elements. I sent free Mackay salt to everybody, and they go, I'm happy with my other salt. And I went, did you not look at the analysis? You know what I'm saying? I'm going, are you crazy? 5 years later, it's now starting to get some momentum.
Fabulous.
It's starting to now. But, being a salt expert, you realize the brand is an important thing. The Himalayan thing, I'm still confused how it got the kind of movement that it had gotten.
I think it's because basically, for me, it's pink, number one, heart-centered, and number two, it says Himalayan. So people have the conception that it's coming from a very spiritual place, especially the raw food movement, that is coming from this highly spiritual place called the Himalayan mountains. So tell us a little bit about that.
That's the interesting thing is it's the raw food and the probably the vegan raw food people. which is interesting because that's the last salt that the vegan raw food people should eat is a mined salt.
Yes.
They need that carbon protein and that they need those protein molecules. So
Yes.
that's the last thing a vegan should be eating is the mined salt if you wanted to really be specific of the mineral composition that we need.
Yes.
If you are looking for a pink salt and you like that color and you like a mined salt, I would go get real salt from Redmond. I would really do that. They're very good company. It's red, it's pink, it's to that heart. You can go visit them. You can trust them because they're here and it's safe. So if I ever did pick a mined salt up, it would be them because they're in our backyard and it's the same composition. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would do.
Got it.
Yeah,
Well,
so that's it.
I definitely want to try some of this other salt that you're talking about. I mean, what was the name
The
again?
Mackay Pure.
The Mackay Pure.
Yeah. It
Mackay
means towards
Pure.
the ocean.
Woohoo.
Yes, it means towards the ocean. So this is very exciting. To share all these salts, we have a variety of salts too. We have the light gray original Celtic sea salt. That has a gray color, and the gray color comes from the salt flats in Brittany, France. The salt flats are lined with clay, and so that comes from that. And that's our original one that we first started with. There was an oil spill of the Erica in 1999. And we couldn't get salt. It was a very scary thing, and that was our only source. We actually lived there with a wheelbarrow trying to find our salt because we needed to make the promise to our customers. That scared me. So what I started doing is procuring salt from all over the world at that time. And I started because it's not overnight. Oh, there's some salt, I'll just pick it up. I have to go visit it. I have to have it analyzed. I might have to improve some conditions. So that's when I started the exploration of all the different salts and can they measure up to the original Celtic sea salt.
Absolutely fabulous.
So we have that, and it comes in a crystal. They also will dry it about 102 degrees, and they make a fine ground out of it. And that is this one right here. We're living in the good old United States, and they really like to shake their salt. So that's what this fine ground is for. It's also a great baking salt because when you bake, you're not looking for nutritional value anyway. That's your luxury and that's your comfort place, So don't try to
love that.
Yeah, you don't have to get your minerals and everything, and you're not getting any additives, preservatives, or anything, so you're still getting it. I highly recommend our wet salt. This is not a wet salt, but there's nothing added that's bad for you. It is 97% sodium chloride, and it's still very alkaline. So you still have all those components to it. Then you have the flour of the ocean. The flour of the ocean is like the caviar of all salts. It's a rare commodity because the weather, the sun and the wind have to be perfect conditions for it to occur. So when the wind is just perfect and the sun is just perfect, the little ripples on the salt flats cause crystals to form on top of the salt beds. They're like a violet color, and you smell this sweet fragrance in the air. It is absolutely beautiful. It really is. And so when you go harvest it, it's so cute to see the farmers. They for the whole day they're just looking at the weather, and at 4 o'clock they go harvest, and they have to hurry up and get the salt out before the weather changes, because that salt will go right back in, and you have to wait the next day to get it. This salt is great. It's a finishing salt. This salt is really good for like on top of candies or fruits or things like that. You can put this salt right on your tongue and it dissolves immediately.
Wow.
It's a very, very soft crystal.
Wow.
The light gray salt, the crystal's a little bit harder. We sell it with a grinder so you can grind it on your food, which we really prefer that you use it wet. You can kind of see the moisture in there
I
a
do.
little
I
bit.
see it, yeah.
And we have customers call and say, oh, I want to send my salt back, it's wet. And I said, you won the lottery! You got the wettest salt in the world! Yes, keep it!
You want it.
Yeah. Actually, there were people way back in 1997 that would send their dry salt back because they said it went bad. Isn't that crazy that they would do that? But they would really do that. Then you have the Mackay, the deep salt. We have, these salts come from all over the world. We have Spain, Portugal. We used to bring on from Haiti, but the Haiti thing messed up with all the earthquake and everything, really messed our facility up. Guatemala and Kona, France. So those are some of the sources where we get the salt, and I visited all of them. So my brand promise to all of you is that I will always have every one of my salt analyzed, always, to make sure that the mineral profile is as similar as it is to our body. And I will always visit this source myself to make sure that I've built a close relationship with them. And so I can be your conduit to them. So if you have any questions for them or anything, let me know, because I know that right now we're opening up this big Pandora box of, of all these questions about sodium and how it affects our body. But I just want to touch on one more thing. The reason it's important to have a high mineral salt is because there's a potassium pump in our body, and that potassium pump can only open and close to bring the nutrients in and out of their cells through a sodium and a potassium molecule. It will not open if it's just sodium chloride. So you really need that potassium and sodium molecule in order for it to get the nutrients in the cell. Our salt also has calcium, and calcium is like the trucking of all nutrients. It carries all nutrients in and out of the cell. So that's an important element too. Are these
and real quick, that pump is also extremely beneficial to that doorway to eliminate any
detox?
waste.
Exactly.
So sodium and potassium.
It's so important. That's why
huge.
edema. You experience edema because the pump it's not opening up,
Right.
And so it's all stuck in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's really important for us to understand all the elements. Now, is this going to be like a supplement? I don't take calcium. I don't have to take anything because I'm taking this. No. This is just the proper way to take your sodium. It delivers better by doing it that way, and our body needs sodium.
Absolutely. Number one alkalizer actually in the body is sodium. So I want to thank you so much for being on Toni TV today. And please, as a friendly reminder, go to selenanaturally.com and take a look at all of the salts that she has available to you. And Selena's also in every health food store that you can ever imagine. But I invite you today to choose the right type of salt. Thank you so much for being on Toni TV, and welcome to the Ecotarian Revolution, because it's definitely a movement whose time has come.